Hey, what's going on? You are listening to the Road Trip Podcast. I'm here with none other than Christopher Walker. What's going on, my man?
Hey, what's up?
Not much, not much. And today we're interviewing Betty Rocker. She is a fitness chick. If you haven't heard of her, I don't know how you haven't because she's making rounds across the globe and looking great in the process. Betty, what's up?
Hi, Greg. Hi, Chris.
Did you like that introduction?
You're such a badass. Yeah, thanks for making me sound so good.
So tell us, Betty, just right off the cuff, where, like, how did this Betty Rocker thing, come about? Like, how did you get into the fitness space?
It's just a series of really interesting events and coincidences in a lot of ways, and also just, when you believe in something and you have passion for things in life, your heart just takes you there. So I've always been into fitness, always been a very active person, but first of all, I should let you guys know I'm not a personal trainer. Just wanted to get that out of the way, make it clear. So I say I'm in the fitness.
Don't worry, don't worry. We're not like the personal training certification is. I mean, I passed the course when I was 16. Granted, I was also super into fitness since I was 13. But I mean, a personal certification has very little weight in my eyes. And Chris, what are your thoughts on, like, if you have to lead in with "I'm a certified personal trainer," then it just shows that you don't really, you're not, like, your heart isn't really in fitness, because the certifications are just like, are, I don't know, they're great, but it's like not a big deal. Like, I wouldn't basically look at someone and be like impressed because they're a certified personal trainer. It's like, you know,
What are you doing
it's
with
like
your life?
graduating.
Like,
It's like
how many
graduating
people are you helping?
graduating from high school. It's like, hi, I graduated from high school. It's like, wow, that's so impressive. You know. What are your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think for some people it's good for to get them into stuff. Like for you, it got you into the fitness stuff. I guess it spurred your learning probably, right?
Well, I mean,
Um,
the only reason I got a certification was because, to train people legally, it's recommended. Or if
oh
you're going to
yeah,
work at a gym,
yeah,
this is back. So that's the only reason why I did it. I just didn't have that piece of paper. Um, but
yeah. More what it says is that you can follow rules, I guess.
yeah.
But that's has negligible uh, value, I guess. It also, because
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I lost you guys there for a
No,
second.
no, no, no. No, I'm with you, Betty. Chris has just popped out. But anyways,
Oh,
um,
what he was saying before about, like, it's that legal thing that you can train a lot of people. I mean, you were asking me about, how I became the Betty Rocker, and the thing is, I don't actually train people one-on-one. What I get to do, which is so freaking awesome, is I work with personal trainers, people who have people who have specialized in a specific area, specific niche, who are very knowledgeable, and together we create these amazing programs. I've been doing these awesome 30-day fitness challenges for the past year that have involved thousands of people from all over the world, and I just get really excited about fitness, and I'm very fit, and I love to do. I've done everything from martial arts to I've been spin yoga. I
you,
love
you like
ballet.
ride, you like do like stunt motorcycle riding, huh?
Motorcycles is definitely in my background. Absolutely, that's how I kind of got the name, the Betty Rocker. They were calling me Punk Rock Betty Crocker since I was little because I was always like riding motorcycles and baking, sort of funny combination. But yeah, it just morphed into Betty Rocker. But yeah, but I really like working with other fitness professionals because I'm very much a motivator. I really can see right into people and see that what they need is to be empowered to do stuff. They need to be motivated to do stuff. And so I team up with the people who help me come up with the moves, and then I give you that kick in the ass to, like, get out there and do it. And I do it right alongside of you. And then along with that, of course, I've got the nutrition background. So I feel like fitness is a big all-encompassing term. To be fit, you are healthy. It's not just about working out. It's about finding an eating style that works for you, as well as exercising and creating a lifestyle that really suits you, so you can make that happen.
Okay, so Betty, so this is gonna be interesting, but we're gonna be basically be kind of talking about that, and And one thing we talk a lot about on this podcast is intermittent fasting. That's something we've had great success with. We talk about being flexible with your nutrition, but tracking your macros, proteins, fats, and carbs, so you know how much you're taking in, so you can basically adjust it if you're not leaning down, or if you're not, if you're trying to gain muscle, you're not gaining muscle, so you have that reference point. But so interestingly enough, you have completely different experience, and that's I'd like to get into that, because I think certain approaches work well for certain people, and for other people they need to take a completely different approach. So I'm very pragmatic in that way. I don't I'm not about I'm about results, and whatever is gonna and making it enjoyable, whatever's gonna work, I'm for. So let's first of all, I know I just said a bunch of words, but let's just start with your experience with intermittent fasting.
I did try it. Had a horrible experience. I felt terrible, exhausted. Just I couldn't do it. I didn't last even 12 hours. I'm a high energy output person, and I eat a lot. I eat a lot of food all day, and I just couldn't. I wasn't comfortable with it. I've heard this a lot from a lot of my female readers too. Although I do have some who've used it successfully, it doesn't seem to be across the board like it's okay for everyone and not okay for everyone else. It seems like there's some people who it works well for and others that it doesn't. I happen to be someone it doesn't work well for.
Okay, so right. Okay, and so let's expand on that a bit, because you have your own sort of a really interesting idea for why that is, because I work with my Kino Body and Road Trip. I work with tons of guys, and I help them get really lean and shredded. And invariably, when I get them onto an intermittent fasting plan, they love it and they lean down. It works awesomely for them. Awesomely.
I do have a theory about why that may be, and I'm not an expert, but I've traveled a lot, and part of when I wrote my eating program, one of the things that I call on a lot is my experience in studying cultures in other countries and their sort of history of food, because that was sort of my main study in college in anthropology. So what I think is really interesting about the whole hunter-gatherer approach to eating, I was really looking at the way that the men were the ones who were doing the hunting for the most part, and so they would go for long periods of time without eating, because that was what they had to do, and then they would feast, and that seems like with the male hormones, just in how they ebb and flow, and just in what the guys were doing, that would work very well. Men are also built much leaner than women. But so in the meantime, the women are trying to be able to have enough fat on their bodies and able to menstruate, so that they can bear the children, so that they're able to lactate, to produce milk. We need a certain amount of fat on our body and able to do this, and our hormone cycle greatly influences how much fat we have at different times and how we're holding on to fat. And so the women were the ones who were not necessarily starving themselves to go kill a deer. They were sitting, eating the berries that had been collected throughout the year, being able to eat more frequently, and to be able to maintain a certain level of body fat in order to do the things that they were supposed to be able to do in order for society to continue. So it's just really interesting stuff to think about for me, and just wondering if maybe there's a difference in the way that men and women respond to not eating for long periods of time. And I know that that theory probably has a lot of holes in it, but it just sort of was what kind of came to me when I was trying to figure this stuff out. And I think we all have a different approach, and you got to find, yeah, sorry.
And ultimately, you have to basically try something out and see what works best for you, and that's the most important thing. And interestingly enough, I've helped a lot of my friends get in really great shape, and so when they start doing stuff like intermittent fasting, they love it, and oh my god, I can eat this much food and lean down. This is crazy. But then they tell their girlfriends about it, and sometimes their girlfriends hate it. They'll try it and they just will not be for them. And other times, there are girls I know that love intermittent fasting, but it seems to be more of a smaller subset of the female population. So it is very interesting. I know Martin Burkhan of Lean Gains talks about why women are better suited for a shorter fast, 14 hours versus 16 hours, because of these different hormonal physiological differences. So I mean, there's definitely something tangible going on there.
I completely agree, and I do get letters from and questions from my readers very often about, well, is it okay if I skip breakfast? And I think that's a really interesting thing because even like for me, I wake up just ravenous. Like I got to eat in the morning, like I have to. And other people wake up and they are not hungry. And I think that as long as you're not in a cycle of eating really crappy foods that are spiking your blood sugar and just really like not giving you a really good baseline read on what your body actually needs, then if you are not hungry in the morning, you shouldn't eat. You should never force yourself to eat. I feel like it's really like we need to learn to trust our own bodies and listen to our bodies. That's why we need to stop feeding them crap that doesn't let us actually hear the messages that they're sending us.
Right, and so this is like kind of cool, but like sometimes there's like two different types of people, or basically like responses, and some people, if they try and skip breakfast, then they might get a compensatory effect, and that's when they skip breakfast, they push themselves to go longer without eating, and then they make up for it by eating more and overeating.
Yes.
Other people, if they skip breakfast, then the cravings are diminished essentially, and that helps big time for them to stick to eating healthy food, controlling their intake. And I mean that's something to experiment with yourself. Like, which type are you? Me, for example, I've always found that when I push breakfast later into the day, or when I push my first meal later into the day, it's so much easier for me to eat healthy and not overeat, overindulge. And actually, one thing that helped a lot for me was like just if I was to fast without a cup of coffee, it was a really tough, not enjoyable experience. But fasting with just 1 or 2 cups of black coffee, it makes everything so much more smooth.
Well, of course, it increases your energy. And I got to say one other thing about that whole, like all the different types, I think that when you're figuring out what your type is, as you suggested, a lot of this stuff is psychological. Like many people will binge eat and like this whole game of like figuring it out it can be really tough to feel like people will binge eat and overeat a lot of the time because they feel like they've deprived themselves of something. And like that's the mentality that you got to avoid. Like you can't like tell yourself you can't have something or you're gonna rebel. It just is the way it is. What do you think about that?
No, I agree. I agree completely. That's very true. And that's like why I kind of like basically, for me at least, for a lot of people I work with, the approach of just being accountable over how many calories and macros you're taking in, at least being in the ballpark. That way, if you want to have some frozen yogurt and you can fit it in without going over your numbers, then you can feel good about it. But other people, if they don't like tracking that stuff, then they might want to have a different approach in mind. Like, how do you approach that?
So in the past, I think it's important for everyone, if you've never counted or tracked your macros ever, that you should do it for like a week or 2. I mean, just see what food is actually made up of, because it's good to have a good baseline and to understand the nutrients and what's in them. And I'm talking about real food here, like whole foods, like understanding what's in your meals. And of course, we know the difference between empty calories and whole nutrient-dense foods. But I do find that I am unable to count calories daily. If I have a calorie number in mind that I'm supposed to be at, I inevitably rebel. I'll make it about 3-4 days tops and hit a number within a certain percentage, and then I just start to freak out about it, and I'll start to feel guilty if I don't get close to that number, and I'll start to beat myself up mentally. And I'm a very strong-minded, confident person, and that's a really uncomfortable way for me to feel. I don't ever want to feel guilty for my food choices, and I don't think anyone should feel guilty for their food choices. I think it's very confusing to navigate the world of food, especially with how much money these advertising companies spend on making you think their processed crap food is healthy, when actually it's really just adding extra fat to your body and depositing chemicals in your fat stores that they're just like really affecting your hormones and affecting you in every way possible. So when it comes to real food, I think if you're eating a diet based on whole foods and you have a good baseline understanding of protein, fat, carbs, and around how much you need of all of them, you don't need to count the calories daily. But different approaches work for different people, and I definitely think you need to know what the macros look like before you start winging it.
Yeah, I concur on that. And I mean, so one interesting thing is when you start tracking macros and that kind of thing, at first at least, it gives you a good baseline so you know approximately how much you can take in to kind of lean down or to maintain your body weight or to slowly gain weight, which is a good skill to have. So you basically are in control over where you're going. And you can figure that out without counting calories, just being intuitive and that kind of thing. But it's easier when it's easier to make that switch by tracking stuff, but you also learn like what foods do you basically, if you're trying to lean down, you learn what foods actually really fill you up and satisfy you.
Yes.
Like for me at least, I have to have carbs in my diet a good amount, otherwise I get all these negative side effects. Sex drive goes down. I've talked about this a lot. I turn into a psychopath. I can't sleep. But then carbs inherently can basically not be that filling. If you take in certain types of carbs. And so what I found was like, if I was to eat stuff like potatoes, I would feel so full and so satisfied. When I'd add just a little bit of fat or butter to the potatoes, I'd be even like way more satisfied. And so basically, I gravitated to certain types of carbs, not like necessarily because, just because their effect on filling me up and satisfying me were so much greater. I'm like really big into like the fullness factor of a specific food. And how satisfying it is. And I learned like basically if I eat stuff like apples, which are crispy and sweet, I'm very satisfied. And so I basically was able to kind of figure out what foods would really satisfy me. And then if like there's something there that's like I enjoy, but it's like, whoa, this is like I could just eat this all day and I'm not going to feel satisfied, then I will kind of steer it out of my diet most of the time. And then I can basically engineer the perfect foods and whatnot that I feel so satisfied, I feel full, and it makes leaning down walk in the park,
Well, one of the things that's interesting about the way that our body works when it comes to knowing when we're full, there's actually, your body will tell you when it's full based on either actual volume of food in your stomach or by nutrient density. So these two triggers, both of these things will send a signal to your brain to let you know that you are full. So that's why you can eat a ton of certain kinds of foods and not feel full or satisfied, because until your stomach is actually expanded to a certain amount where it triggers that signal, you don't know that you're full. You'll just keep eating. That's why you can eat the whole bag of chips, all the Oreos, like massive amounts of this, other types of foods. But when it comes to the nutrient density, your body knows it's full after, like you said, like a potato with butter and maybe a side of chicken or something, like a protein. So it's our whole foods, our nutrient dense foods, that are the ones that are going to satisfy us.
And you know what I've also found, basically, as well as like getting in those nutrients, I also find I have to satisfy certain cravings. So if I was just to eat like boiled chicken breast and brown rice, or boiled chicken breast and like just a potato, like I wouldn't even feel like I wouldn't feel satisfied. I'd be like, I need something more. I mean, also, there's no fat in that meal, so I mean that's also a fair point. But like I like to satisfy like that craving for like a bit of saltiness. So like putting a bit of like sea salt on my food, or having like food that's like a bit crispy. And so when I satisfy like these cravings, or having an apple which is a bit sweet, when I satisfy like these cravings, then like sometimes you might not be hungry anymore, but you still feel like you want to eat something, and not like necessarily the feeling of eating because you're bored, but just because you feel like you miss something.
Yeah.
Like that's why, like, and you cook delicious food that tastes amazing, I imagine, that's super healthy, and that if it didn't taste that great, if it was just bland, it probably wouldn't be as rewarding or enjoyable.
Yeah. So this is such a cool thing to talk about, actually, Greg. I'm so glad you brought it up, because like, okay, so why I write the eating programs that I write is because...
Can I just interject for a second?
Yeah.
Before you get into this? Okay, so guys, I'm really sorry about Chris. He's very shy around girls. He had to jump out. Like, he was too scared to be in the conversation with you, Betty. But I'm going to, like, carry on the rest of the interview. And anyway, listening, I apologize for Chris's absence. We're working on his confidence around girls. So don't worry. We'll get there.
Oh my
It's been
goodness.
a long day for him, you know. But anyways, okay, go on, Betty.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just saying that a lot of the why I wrote the programs the way I wrote them for my eating guides is because specifically I don't like being bored with food, and it's really important to have a good balance, like we were just talking about, with the different nutrients, right? You know we need these specific nutrients to achieve a result or goals that we have, whether they're maintaining your body. My goals personally are to be lean and shredded, and have a really healthy attitude towards my food, and also maintain a fairly low level of body fat and support all of my activities. And so I eat and and create these recipes that satisfy me, because it's so true. You will start craving stuff if you don't let yourself enjoy eating, the whole eating process, and eating certain things. Like, I really like crunchy and I really like sweet. So I got to be able to have like my crunchy toast, and I got to be able to make like pizza, and I got to be able to, like, well, my version of pizza, which is pretty badass. And I got to be
Yeah,
able to
let's
have
hear
like,
your version of pizza because you know, I know you don't eat gluten, and I mean I don't eat gluten either. I have a sensitivity to it, and I feel better when I don't have gluten. And I know people want to be like, oh, you don't eat gluten, like unless you're celiac, you shouldn't. Like, it doesn't matter or whatever. But I mean, if you feel better without eating something, then you should do it. But let's hear your gluten-free pizza thing.
can I actually expand a little bit on this gluten thing, because
Please
that's a
do, please
really
do.
hot topic. And you were so gracious to be a guest on my last talk show, and we talked about this a little bit, and I felt like our listeners really benefited, because the thing is, it's true. I do talk about the gluten-free diet, but it's a real misnomer, because gluten is it's a protein found in wheat, that's actually just very tough for our little single-chambered stomach to break down and digest. It's just a tough protein to break down. Now, we're not talking about people with celiac disease who have an autoimmune response to gluten and really cannot eat it at all. But for us, the reason it causes inflammation and screws up our digestive system is because it's very hard for us to break down. If you think about ruminants who have 4 chambers in their stomach, they're able to easily break down the grains that they eat because they have more stomach acid, and they're processing it through 4 chambers of their stomachs. It's very different. Grains have some wonderful nutrients that we need. They're a great source of complex carbohydrates to give us that steady, slow-burning energy, fuel our muscles, all that kind of stuff. And it's a stupid thing to say that you just need to eliminate all gluten. What is wrong here is that we don't know how to properly prepare our food, because we have been told by this diet industry that we need to have all these foods that are pre-made for us. Like, that's what everyone, buys. They buy these pre-made foods, and so you got to just watch out for that. But it's really just that you want to know how to properly prepare foods that contain gluten and not eat a ton of them. Like, you don't need to eat, you don't have to completely avoid gluten, but you need to either soak, sprout, or ferment foods that contain gluten, because that will actually help to break down the gluten protein so that your body can digest it. I mean, a good equivalent to this is, a lot of you guys may have an issue digesting full-on dairy. And if you eat yogurt, which is it's fermented dairy, you're going to have an easier time digesting it. It's the same thing with gluten. So partially broken down gluten. There's also other things going on with the grains. There's anti-nutrients in the bran and the coating of the grain, and those can be also broken down and more easily assimilated by your body by the soaking, sprouting, and fermenting processes. There's a lot of information on that online if you want to read more. But so my version of pizza is not just this gluten-free thing. It's actually, I go for the Ezekiel sprouted grain products when I'm looking for breads and things that I can easily get. Because, like, guys, I do cook a lot because I really enjoy it. I'm a really simple cook, and I do batch cooking quite often because I'm lazy and I don't want to have to cook all freaking day every day. I want to, like, cook one time on Sunday and be mostly done. I'm simple. But yeah, so my pizza is, I'll take a gluten, one of those Ezekiel sprouted grain wraps. And by the way, you can find these almost anywhere. You can get them at Costco. You can get them at Safeway. Ezekiel is a company that's been around for a million years. You've got to look in the cold or the frozen section, or you won't be able to find it, because it's a perishable item. It's not full of preservatives and crap. They've sprouted the grains properly. So anyway, so I'll do a sprouted grain wrap. I'll make some pesto, usually with sun-dried tomatoes and pumpkin seeds and garlic and some really basil, some good stuff, so I can get those really good nutrients and healthy fats. I'll spread the pesto on my toasted crust. I'll do some shredded chicken, some fresh herbs, I don't know, whatever the hell I feel like putting on that sucker, and then I'll just, like, destroy it. That's my pizza. Anyway, that was a long explanation.
That does sound quite fantastic. And I will be actually going out because I'll be going out to Colorado. We're going to be doing some cool stuff in a couple months, and so you can make me some of that pizza.
Can't wait, Greg.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. So now, we talked a bit about the intermittent fasting. I mean, the importance of basically eating a health food that's packed with nutrition, but it also that you that you inherently enjoy. Because it's like a myth that you should eat food that doesn't taste good. I mean, eating food that tastes good will make your life easier if it's like if you're going with like great quality food.
Yeah, and it'll make your life better too. There's something, I know you have a lot of male listeners, and I hope I haven't lost them all by talking about all this gluten and all this stuff, but there is something that I want to touch on as far as men and food, and that is the importance of food game, guys. So the thing is, women find it incredibly sexy when you know a little bit about food and you know your way around the kitchen. I mean, if you guys are going to go on a date, invite a girl to meet you at the grocery store, get a latte, and freaking walk around the store with her and look at food, find out what she likes, show her what you like, and then take her home and cook for her. Doesn't have to be fancy. Like, seriously, women find that so incredibly sexy. Just FYI.
Wow, that's a good date idea. I mean, it's a perfect opportunity to inject a bit of your personality or flair using the context of the grocery store and the various food items. I like that.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I call it food game. Like back when I used to teach dating coaching. That was
well, let's talk about this for a second.
Sure.
So you used to teach dating coaching.
Yeah, I was a dating coach for men. Yes.
And where and this was in Colorado. This was in Denver.
Yeah, this is in Denver. This was very under the radar, but I had a great blog. And I would fly to different. I was involved in the pickup community and would fly to different lairs. And I don't know if your readers are familiar with the pickup artist lingo, but the lairs are where guys meet up in different cities to talk about how to talk to women and how to meet them. And it's a really there are a lot of different aspects and ways to look at the pickup community, but for me, what I was trying to teach people was life game. You got to value yourself. You got to really appreciate yourself, and food and cooking and caring about your body is one of the most elemental ways to show that you care for yourself. And I don't know about you guys, but I think it's very attractive when someone cares enough about themselves to put in the effort to learn how to take care of their own body. It says a lot about them. And I would imagine you guys may find that that's attractive in a woman, is when she cares enough about her body and wants to take care of it and exercises and wants to eat the right food. I mean, that's a very sexy thing, and it's very elemental. So what I would teach is life games. So I would help guys a lot with their body language because my background is in kinesiology and anatomy. And I was a structural integrationist for many years, worked with motorcycle racers, and anyway, mostly with men. And I just sort of naturally fell into this dating coaching thing because I was able to read and interpret body language almost to the point where you think I'm reading your mind. But yeah, so I would film guys in different situations, and and then we would watch the tape back, and I would show them what their body language was saying and help them develop confidence in themselves and just in the postures. Because sometimes when you take on a specific posture, it'll actually make you feel better. I mean, you guys you're in a bad mood, and you ever just try smiling, even though you don't feel like it? The smile that you put on your face physically will actually start to translate into your brain. I mean, our muscles and our minds are so intrinsically connected that you can actually change your state of mind by doing a physical action. So
right, it's like a double feedback loop where if you're happy, you smile, but if you're not happy and you smile, it has an effect on your mood.
Yes, absolutely.
If you assume like a confident position and you're feeling very shy or introverted, then just by taking on that position, even though doesn't feel congruent at first, then you're basically it warms you up to being more confident or expressive.
100%, 100%. So yeah, so I just think that that was kind of, well, anyway, that's what I was doing with the dating coaching, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed sharing, and I really enjoyed being sort of I would help my guys. They would talk, they would practice their game on me, and I would give them honest feedback. It's very it's a responsibility. I have younger brothers, so for me it's very easy for me to I want to help guys be more confident when it comes to talking to women, because like there's all this man, it's just so hard for people to connect, and it's just such a shame because we all have so much to offer each other. But I think if you're having any trouble with dating, or you're having any trouble with figuring out how to talk to people, I think the first thing we all need to do is look to ourselves and look to our own self-development, and work on really shoring yourself up, feeling good about yourself. And that's why I like the stuff that Greg teaches, and this stuff about how to take care of your body. This is a great place to start, and it just has long, far-reaching effects on the rest of your life. And this is ultimately why I chose fitness and health coaching. It's because I feel like this is where it all starts. This is where it all stems from.
Exactly, and this is far beyond the cosmetic benefits of looking great. Yeah. I mean, we can't deny that a great-looking body is attractive, but there's also something much deeper than that. Like, as you were kind of addressing, Betty, when you start to when you're someone that's basically just, just average in shape, not that active, never really took their body to another level, then as soon as you go through that process and you start, feeling better because you're eating better, you're training, you're seeing the progress in the gym, you're seeing the progress in the mirror, people are making comments. I mean, it's not just the cosmetics there; it's the fact that you have all this extra belief in you. You're so much more confident. You believe you can, do anything, and then that basically that has an effect over your personality and the way you see yourself in life, and then that can be massively powerful in other areas.
Well, it's how you project your persona to others, and you just naturally do it. I mean, I like to tell my listeners and my readers that looking good is a byproduct of how you treat yourself. I mean, it just is 100%. If you care enough about yourself to take the time to listen to this great information that you have available to you, and you take the time to actually figure out how to apply it, and you do the work of experimenting on yourself and figuring it out. I mean, you're already a person who values themselves, and you can't hide that. It just in the results of that work that you do is just undeniable. I mean, you will see it on your body, you'll see it in your face, you'll see it in every element of your life. It'll make you a happier, more confident person in general.
And what do you think about this, Betty? What do you think about this? How you basically, how people respond to you, interact with you, and feel about you is a reflection of how you see yourself.
Yeah, I think I say something. I think that's almost like the first line in one of my books is because that's the universal truth. That is the truth, Greg. That's exactly it. It's how you look and feel is a byproduct of how you treat yourself. I mean, 100%.
Right, and so I mean, yeah, that's where all the fitness and the nutrition stuff, it basically has massive benefits there. And then, of course, I mean, we talk about this, Betty, but you don't want to get too absorbed in the fitness stuff where you lose sight of everything else in your life, which is something that is kind of you see.
Yes.
It has to be in you want to expand there? I mean, did you ever have that extreme approach, or have to work with people that were basically taking it way too far, and even obsessing about the way they looked, and then turning a positive thing into a negative thing because they were dependent on the weight on the scale, how they looked in the mirror, whether they improved that week on their, what do you know?
My God, I think you and we've probably both had readers and clients and people who've been in that boat, but I'm gonna personally tell you that I've been that person, was stuck in that horrible negative roller coaster for many years, just obsessing about body image. And I think why I have so much compassion now is because I had to teach it to myself first. and I was in such a bad place for so many years. I just thought that if I didn't weigh a certain amount and I didn't look a certain way in a bathing suit, that I was just I was fat. I used to just call myself horrible names and just all this negative self-talk. And you've never known it to look at me, because when I look back at pictures of myself, I'm 37 now, just in case your readers don't know, but when I look back at pictures of myself in my early 20s, I'm like, wow, you were so beautiful. What? That's crazy. But I remember the moment I was in when those photos were taken, and how I didn't think anything like that at the time. I thought I looked like shit. I thought I was just awful. And that sort of messed up perception of ourselves that we have, that takes us to dark places, and we go on these I used food as a drug, I used drugs as drugs, I used alcohol. I mean, I was really unhappy, and there are just so many pressures in the world that make us, we just feel like we're supposed to look a certain way, like we need to be like these people in magazines. But have you guys ever met models, real models, or people in magazines? I mean, they don't look like the people in the magazines half the time. It's like ridiculous. It's like this standard that doesn't exist. And I don't know. I really had to do the work of the self-development and figuring out what really mattered to me and caring about myself. And that was, it took a long time to get out of the struggle. I don't know. Was that what we were talking about? I kind of got
that was right on. You hit the nail with the proverbial hammer, so to speak. So let's switch gears and talk a little bit about how you approach fitness and working out. And if someone, if you're working, so you want to help someone get in shape, become more fit, strong, have more tone and more muscular. How do you like to approach training?
Well, I have a mostly female audience, and I definitely I'm not prescribing workouts to them because I'm not a personal trainer. So I did just come out with an amazing 12-week fitness program, though, that I partnered with a trainer on, and we co-wrote it, and it includes the food element, because the food element is such an important part. But when it comes to workouts, I focus a lot on a combination of strength training and plyo, high intensity stuff, and mix it together because I like to do really efficient workouts. I'm the person who doesn't always have a lot of time to spend on a workout, so I like to do fast circuits a lot of the time. But I personally the way that I personally train is I do 2 to 3 days of bodybuilding a week, depending on where I'm at. I change my workout schedule every 4 to 6 weeks and do different stuff. But I like to train. I like to lift heavy weights, and then I mix that in with body weight circuits that are really hard and fast and fun. Because like for me, fitness needs to be fun. It's just like we were talking about with food. Like if I'm bored or I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something, it sucks. Like I want to beat a clock. I want to beat a time. I want to beat my last record. I want to constantly be pushing myself. And I think that that's really the secret when it comes to like what it is I teach people is that's why I have challenges, because I think that to stay motivated, we all need something that kind of is like gives us a goal to aim for. And then when you reach your goal or you get close to your goal, it's time to set a new one. So whatever your training style is, you got to remember to have variety in it, and you got to remember to mix it up, and you got to keep it fun.
Yeah, and I concur. I'm similar in that regard because I like to, strive. Especially when I was younger, I was getting into fitness. I always want to have like some benchmarks to hit. I got to hit 20. I want to hit 20 pull-ups. Like that's the standard. That's the goal. And then when you have something to work towards, then it's like really, it's just a lot more rewarding.
Excuse me. How many pull-ups can you do now, Greg?
Honestly, I don't know. I haven't done maximum bodyweight pull-ups in a long time. It's not like obscene. It's somewhere between 20, maybe 25 reps, maybe 30. Somewhere like dead hang. I do a lot of like. See, here's the thing. I injured my elbow a while ago, so I couldn't do any like heavy pull-up, chin-up training. And then basically my lats start to get too big from like hammering pull-ups a lot. So I've been relaxing on them, and I've just been working on getting the one-arm pull-up, which I actually did quite a few times. But I just do like, a couple one-arm pull-ups and like just really low volume, just to have the strength there, but without giving my back too much of a pump, too much of a muscle-building trigger.
Hey, did you do any one-arm pull-up videos on your Instagram yet?
I've got like 2 up, I want to say.
I want to look.
Yeah,
I like your Instagram is looking good. There's so many good demo moves in this thing. Like I'm super into it. It's great.
Oh, well, you know what? I mean, so people listening, Betty Rocker is massive on Instagram. She was the one that's saying like, Greg, you got to start hitting Instagram properly. You got to start building it up. It's an amazing place to really motivate people, because when people are following you on Instagram, you're basically in their phone. So like they have that tight relationship with you. They can see you basically every day without having to go on the computer, without having to go through the troubles of finding you. They just flip up their phone and there you are. And it's like having like a motivational figure in your phone. I completely agree. Like I see the light side now. So
yeah.
Betty, you guys should all check out Betty Rocker's Instagram account, which is the Betty Rocker. She got some awesome stuff, very motivating, and you know, thanks to her, I started to do my channel, take it more seriously, or my Instagram account, and that's Grego Gallagher. But anyways, if you guys want to really stay motivated with fitness stuff, you know, follow some cool people on Instagram, and there's, you know, it can be a great way to just kind of stay motivated. I mean, what's like the power of Instagram?
I freaking love it.
Yeah.
I mean, well, the thing about Instagram, I mean, you know, guys, it's like your phone is your freaking life device. I mean, you've got it with you 24/7. Like you take it with you in the bathroom. I know you don't want to tell anybody that, but I know you do. You take it with you freaking everywhere. You use it to look up the weather. You use it to play games. You use it to any second you're bored or feel awkward, you look at your phone.
Tinder. Use it to Tinder.
Right? So, like, funny story, I smashed my phone, Kate, like my freaking screen on my phone recently, so I had to go get it replaced. And after I got it replaced, I went to eat, and I had to leave my phone in the car because it was dead. And it's the first time I'd been without my phone for, like, I don't know, freaking forever. So I'm sitting there at this table waiting for my food, and I realized, wow, I'm actually present. I'm engaged to the moment around me. There are all these people. There were some cute guys. I actually started talking to them. 3 guys sat down and joined me at my table. I had a blast talking to them for like 2 hours, and it was all because I wasn't stuck with my face in my phone for like a moment. You know, it was just like, God, we got to remember, like, this thing is your life device, but just like your food, just like your fitness, you got to have balance with it. Do not miss out on opportunities in life because you're stuck in your phone like 24/7. It's a total, I don't know, addiction.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Like if I'm with my friends or if I'm with a girl, like that phone is locked away. I mean, it's like, you know, every basically like new piece of technology or tool can be amazing if you know how to use it, but if it can also be a massive detriment. And so if you like are controlled by your phone, addicted to it, constantly checking it all the time, that's not, you know.
That's a mentality that we could talk about, you know, just like the obsessiveness. I mean, if you have to, I mean, that's how I kind of felt about calorie counting for me. Like I'm an extremist, right? I got to do it all, or I got to like take a break, or I got to figure out like a good balance with things. Like I've tried to temper my extremism over the years to find balance with all the things I do, you know, because once you figure out the balancing thing, it's good because you can apply it to a lot of different areas of your life. I mean, like we need balance with our technology, we need balance with our food, we need balance with working out. You don't want to work out. I mean, actually, Greg, I've been curious. I mean, how many rest days, you know, do people need to take to really fully recover? And how do you, I mean, is it ever appropriate to work out 7 days a week? Like, say you're training different body parts every day, or do you really need full rest time?
Well, I mean, I am all about doing heavy lifting every other day, 3 days a week to get the maximum benefit. So when you're stressing your central nervous system by engaging in, you know, heavy explosive training, then it's best to have that recovery period so your central nervous system can recharge. But I mean, if you want to do some lighter work in between, even some training, some sports, doing some, you know, some cardio, some intervals, some ab training on those rest days, that won't be that won't have like as much of a negative impact on your recovery for your strength training, unless of course it's like if you were going to do like a heavy squat deadlift session, but the day before you did a lot of running or intervals or hill sprints. I mean, that will, you know, hamper your recovery. But you can definitely work out every day. But I would say just keep the heavy lifting, the strength training to an every other day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday sort of deal.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was curious about that because I actually teach a similar mindset when it comes to food, because I really expect that people are going to, if people are following my teachings, for example, and eating whole foods and having balanced meals most of the time throughout the week, I stress that it's very important to take what I call NSA days. And you guys remember the No Strings Attached movie where, like, you know, like it's like Friends with Benefits basically. So you have like a day or a meal.
Butcher and Natalie Portman.
Yeah. So that's how I categorize my non-sanctioned meals, because I'm like, you know, basically you got to like release your attachment to the outcome of some of these foods. Like you can't be strict about it, about yourself, or you're going to rebel. Like doesn't work. So you got to be able to take some unscheduled meals off. Like, you know, you happen to be invited to a dinner on a day when you were supposed to eat your specific meal that you took the time to prepare ahead of time. I mean, you know what? Sometimes life happens, and you just got to like be okay with that stuff, and then, you know, you get back on your specific way of eating the next day, and it's absolutely fine. So I just feel like you got to have some room to, you know, flex with it. It's great if you want to stick to it 7 days a week, and you don't eat out at all, and you don't have, you know, any social activities going on that week. That's awesome. Your body's going to thank you for it, because all of those organic nutrients in your body are exactly what it knows what to do with. But you've got to let yourself, when you have the opportunity, to have some balance. And you don't want to go all the way crazy, because we know where that gets people, but definitely, like, I just feel like that whole balanced approach is like what I'm talking about. And we have to be able to apply it to workouts. We got to be able to apply it to food, and of course in our lives and other areas as well. That's just my 2 cents.
Right, and I kind of think, like, in terms of maximizing your health, it extends beyond, you know, eating really healthy food and exercising. It's also down to there's a massive psychology component to it, or just in how, you know, how you feel in life. You know, are you if you're constantly just drilled in and about your diet and your nutrition, obsessed about that, but you're not, like, being able to, you know, just relax, be stress-free, just enjoy the moment with your friends, and do stuff that you enjoy doing. I mean, that is, like, that's also very important.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I see a lot of new sort of diet and eating strategies out there that kind of like are a good answer to some of that stuff. Like, I think if it fits your macros is one that I've seen, and certainly intermittent fasting would allow you to do that as well, kind of give you more flexibility and flexible dieting, those types of things. And, you know, like, I don't think any specific diet or program is wrong. I think every one of them has something to offer us at different times, and it's good to self-experiment and try out and find out what works for you, because different things will work for you better at different times, and some things won't work at all. But how the hell are you going to know that unless you go and try it, you know? And every person who writes a specific program has solid reasons behind them usually, and science doesn't always agree, you know? That's why it can be so confusing to navigate. Like, well, which one's the right one? There is no right one. There's whatever's right for you right now, and, like, try it out. Doesn't work, you don't react well to it, try something else. It's totally, we're our own self-experiment. It's just, don't be afraid to try new things.
Exactly. Very, very well said. Well, let's wrap up here. So Betty, you know, people want to find you, check out what you're doing. I mean, your Instagram is, like, off the chain. That's the Betty Rocker on Instagram, or Instagram.com/thebettyrocker. And you got a couple other venues to check out.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I definitely recommend Instagram if you're on it, but I know not everybody uses that app. I've also got a Facebook fan page, of course, and I think it's /Betty Rocker Show, because my regular, I don't know why I didn't use that. But yeah, I got a Facebook page. If you're on Facebook and you want to connect with me there, I post great, unique content there. I've got a great blog full of a ton of free resources, a lot of the recipes that I talk about, and the workouts. I post workouts, videos, all kinds of stuff on the blog, and it's just thebettyrocker.com. So feel free to connect with me in any way that you'd like. And I just really appreciate the opportunity to get to talk to you guys today.
All right. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
All right. Take care.
Take care, Greg. Bye, guys.